Hey, whoa, what's up? This is Dominic DeAngelo of Brass Ring Media. Yeah, and I am here to talk. Well, it's the first ever Daily Wrestling Hotline that is live. I am live here, and I wanted to discuss a couple of talents that have AEW ties that are more now maybe WWE ties. Well, one is definitely WWE ties. One is a possibility to have WWE ties. And so I think this will be a fun little hotline to chat about here. If you are in the chat and you're tuning into Brass Ring Media, feel free to use the chat to ask questions. This will be a kind of a platform where I'm going to field a couple questions and, go off the beaten path of a hotline. Usually if you're not familiar with the Daily Wrestling Hotline, I do this, try to do it every Monday through Friday. I've missed a couple already, but I just cover one topic basically, and I talk about it. But if people have other topics to chime in with, I'll be happy to do that as well. So feel free to ask a question, anything like that, and I will give you my opinion. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on. And when it comes to the news here, and wrestling media right now has a little bit of some stuff cooking here. If you guys aren't familiar, there's a little bit of thing going on here between Sean Rossap of Fightful and Dr. Chris Featherstone of Sportskeeda Ties. Sean Rossap, I'm a friend of. I do like Sean Rossap, and I think he does. There's a reason he is at the top of the game right now when it comes to breaking news and covering things. And Fightful is a machine going on right now for pro wrestling news and media. And, if you're at the top like Sean is when it comes to stuff like that, you're going to get your detractors and your haters. Yeah, if you're not doing your job right, if you don't get the haters and if you don't get people chirping back at you and criticizing you. So, but something interesting that I thought about this is Chris Featherstone decided to say something that was already well reported, that he had someone close to the situation tell him that Vince McMahon has been trying to buy back WWE from TKO. I'm going off the beaten path here, but that was already, Jonathan Coachman already talked about that several days beforehand. And I do believe there was another outlet that reported it. Maybe it was Fightful itself that had some discussions about it. I think it was because Sean was like, no, this has been reported days ago, called Chris Featherstone out on it. And then it got into a bit of a situation there where Chris shouted back at screenshots that Sean said about stuff. And Sean went on a litany of stuff that Chris has been doing this allegedly with, and like basically saying things that have already been reported and kind of using it as his own reports. Not necessarily crediting people for this. Well, Chris went on to defend himself in some posts and stuff like that, and accusing Sean of defamation and libel and all this stuff. And it's a weird situation, but the fact of the matter is this. That's always a pro wrestling term, right? The fact of the matter is this. Is like, you got to credit your sources. Even if you don't report something, you'll be like, as initially reported by Fightful, I can confirm that another source told me this. Boom. That easy. No problems. No situations. Featherstone didn't do that whatsoever. Just did not do it. And, there's a lot of people. And I do a show called Clean Up the Dirt Sheets on here too. And I haven't done one of those in a while. But I guess this is kind of going in that route. Is there's a lot of people in wrestling media that don't necessarily have the background of a journalism degree and things like that. And I've said this before, you do not need a journalism degree to be a journalist. You just don't. You did. I'm happy I have that kind of as a degree in a certain way. It certainly hasn't paid me in what I want. Granted, me being a dumb college kid didn't apply himself as much as I probably should have when I was there. I never did an internship when I was getting the degree, and it's pretty key to get an internship when you're in a journalism degree. They want you. You should really insert yourself into the thick of something. You know, whether you're working for like a sports team or you're a newspaper, even though that's kind of a defunct thing now. And then, so there's a lot of, yeah, you should do an internship. Anyway, don't need necessarily need a journalism degree to be a journalist. You just don't. It's putting yourself in situations and reporting about it from a perspective that gives a clear picture for the consumer to understand what's going on without bias as much as you can. I mean, everybody has their biases, but a lot of people will just say too that I am not me. I'm saying them referring to themselves. Hey, I'm a legit journalist, or everything like that. Well, are you? I mean, that's a thing. Like, people will say what they want to say because they want to have give a certain impression of themselves. Now, Chris Featherstone happened to say that he is, I don't know if he used legitimate. He used a term, I think, that had L in it. I'm going to hold on. I'm going to look it up. But he happened to try to back himself by saying, oh, I am a journalist. I've done this stuff before. Like, and he cited that he worked for Fox Sports and he worked for Sports Illustrated, the mustard. So I'm trying to find what he exactly said. I quoted it somewhere here. I'm getting close here. Getting close. Hold on. Stay with me here. Stay with me. This is live, folks. We're live, pal. My God, where did I write this at? Oh, as a literal journalist. There's some stuff to parse through on that one. I've never seen Chris is, I'm sure, have attended wrestling events and I'm sure covered it as media, but to be honest, I've never seen him at events. I've never seen him. I'm almost positive he's been to one or two that I've been at, but I mean, like, and that necessarily, even going to these things does not make you a journalist. It's such a foggy term nowadays. I mean, like, you can be a reporter, you can be certain things like that. Even that is kind of shady in certain ways and murky in certain ways. To call yourself a legitimate journalist when you're in just pro wrestling and you're writing news articles, I give myself a lot of pause to call myself a journalist. Now, certain ways I like to think I am, because I go to events, I do interviews, I sometimes report things, not a whole lot. It's very rarely when I report stuff. But it's like, I don't know. I have a degree. Doesn't necessarily make me a journalist. I go out. I like to think I'm somewhere in the realm of a journalist, but it's pro wrestling at the same time. It's pro wrestling. I mean, if I really wanted to be a journalist, I mean, I'd go into maybe a different field of some sort, but I always like to have fun and say, yeah, I'm a pro wrestling journalist, but it does feel a little haughty, right? Anyways, my thoughts on that: always credit your sources and credit people, their initial reports. That's just 101. I've never seen Chris Featherstone do that. I've never seen him, as confirmed by this. I also can say that this happened from another source. Never seen him do that. And so he just takes it for himself. I don't think a legitimate journalist would do that. So my thoughts, my 2 cents on that one. Okay, let's talk about this Ricky Saints. I still want to call him Starks, but Ricky Saints, Stephanie, of course, another one reported, and Jordan Grace I did want to kind of keep to AEW talent because this is the reason I'm going with it. Their call to the main roster is reportedly imminent. This is according. See, this is how you do it. This is according to the Wrestling Observer. So Dave Meltzer reports this. And then also, in turn, it is being reported that Mariah May, well, she is off the AEW roster page, which is an indication that she could be gone from AEW. I believe it was PW Insider. Let me check on this here. We're doing the credits live and in time here. Yes. So here we go. Mariah May's time with All Elite Wrestling has come to an end. This is aggregated by my former site that I used to work for, WrestleZone. My first site I worked for. Well, yes, that I was paid for. According to Fightful Select, Sean Rossap of Fightful Select, Mariah May is expected to head to WWE imminently after her contract with AEW officially expires. Despite being removed from AEW's roster page, May's management has informed SAP that her contract with the company has not yet expired. This is being reported as of today. This departure was not a surprise to AEW, as they were well aware of May's intentions to depart the company for WWE upon expiration of her contract. The biggest question that remains is what brand May will wind up on after signing with WWE. Based on the recent roster call-ups, NXT could certainly use her on Tuesday nights. This goes back to the topic I was kind of covering yesterday. AEW having to fully embrace their women's division. And they need to. I mean, they need to fully embrace some of their talent. Put their arms around the talent that you still have and that you're sure you can keep there. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs when it comes to the relationship that Mariah May had with AEW. I do, from what I've been gathering, they had I think a 2-year contract or something. Has she been there 2 years? It doesn't feel like it. It really doesn't feel like she's been there 2 years, if that's the case. Maybe it was like a 1-year contract on a contingency. I've got no idea. She probably know that. Hey, speaking of journalists, right? They don't. So, but it sounds like she made her intention clear that she was not going to stick around AEW. So it does make sense from a storyline standpoint that you're not going to put the rocket behind her if she doesn't plan on staying. However, putting her in a prominent role and keeping her in the prominent role in arguably your hottest feud that you've had in AEW for the year of 2024 leading into 2025, it makes you feel like you're gonna miss out, and they are gonna miss out. Mariah May appears is gonna be gone from AEW, and it will feel like another big get by WWE. Seen it with Cody Rhodes, seen it with Jade Cargill, seen it with Penta. At some point, we're gonna see more and more of that with Rey Fenix, obviously. In some ways, we've seen it with Ethan Page too. So yeah, it's a shame that this kind of happened, right? Mariah May, when they acquired her, was like, oh, okay, she got a personality, she's got a look, she is a fantastic. She was getting over as a baby face before she ultimately turned heel, and she was a fantastic heel. It's a shame that they weren't. Perhaps Mariah saw what she saw at AEW and how it was ran or maybe orchestrated, and she just wasn't up. She could see that this was not maybe been the spot for her. It's a bummer, but I hope it's a reality check a lot for AEW, like where they're just like, okay, let's put our eggs in the right baskets here and make sure that things are happening for everything. And that we are building stars and making sure that they stay with us. And like perhaps too, like it seems, I mean, money's an important object, obviously, and AEW, Tony Khan can pay you, but maybe Mariah May was seeing from a creative standpoint where there would be an end to this all, and or that she was not going to support or agree with, I guess. And so maybe that's she what, like JR says, it always deals. There's the two C's, cash and creative. And she probably saw where the creative was and might not have liked it. The cash was likely there, but she can also get paid in WWE and potentially, in the grand scheme of it all, in a bigger way if she plays her cards right, which she has the potential to do so. And so far, it looks like Ricky Saints has played his cards right, starting off in NXT and getting over on that brand. And now, according to reports from Meltzer, it looks like he's main roster bound. And it makes you think about the journey of Ricky Starks and into Ricky Saints. And so, he could have very much been like an AEW original. He should have been like one of their pillars, if we're being honest. Like, he should have been somebody that Tony Khan really wrapped his arms around, but it decided not to. And I don't know how it all kind of broken down with, Ricky Starks really good friends with Cody Rhodes and really good friends with Jade Cargill. I don't know all the details when it comes to how much of a factor that played and how Ricky decided to how that dynamic between him and Tony Khan and what that meant for him and Cody and maybe his future plans. Like, it's always a wild situation when you have these different relationships with people in the wrestling business. So, maybe they had an indication that Ricky wasn't going to stay, or maybe Ricky saw that he wasn't getting promoted in the right fashion and got disenchanted. I don't know. I don't know the details, but either way, they lost him. And now he's in WWE, and now it looks like he's main roster bound. And I made the argument that when WWE signed him, that, hey, you should put him right now on the main roster. Just fully embrace and make him one of your new stars. It's good to shake things up and have a star show up unexpected. People know who he is. And, WWE, he could almost, I mean, I don't know. I couldn't say he would maybe get a reaction that Jericho did in 1999, but who knows? I mean, you build it up the right way, play into you could have a lot of fun with something like that. So I always made the argument that Ricky should have been main roster right off the bat. But him winning the North American Championship, having a little bit of a stay in NXT, and not a long stay, I don't think is a terrible thing. So should be cool. And I'm excited. I'm excited for Ricky Saints and to see him in the main roster and in the mix of things. All right. Well, look at this. So Triple E, who is always a great user, he says, you see, WWE just announced a little bit ago, Stephanie McCool is on Raw and now has a Money in the Bank triple threat on Monday against Liv and Ivy Nile. How about that? Man, that seems like somebody you should insert into that is Stephanie McCool into the Money in the Bank already. And kind of to what I was just saying, it gave that big get them right in the mix of things right away, shake things up a little bit. She would do that. You have somebody already like Roxanne Perez that's in the Money in the Bank ladder match, and then you got Rhea Ripley in there too. Who's the other? Alexa Bliss is in there. You could have some fun stuff. Get Stephanie McCool in there too, and she in a smaller way too is somebody that AEW missed out on. I mean, she wrestled Mercedes Moné at Forbidden Door, right? And there felt like there could have been a lot there for her in AEW. But again, they didn't do all the due diligence, I guess, that they probably should have with her. And we now see her in WWE and head into Raw, it looks like. So, man, it's just, if I'm AEW, it's time to really, really get out the notepad, write names down, select names of who you want to put your chips behind. And I made the argument for Willow Nightingale yesterday. I've been making the argument for Powerhouse Hobbs. Obviously, you have Ospreay, you have Kenny, Ricochet and Swerve. You got those names in the mix. Like Okada, there's still plenty more to do with, but it's just like come up with a game plan for these talents that you can and just make the most out of them. Make the most out of them and what you can do. It's because look at what they're doing with Penta. It's just amazing. You know, the presentation that they do, WWE has done with him and how they've handled him and made him feel like such a big deal. So I think Bayley is really injured right now. I do think she is, but I could be wrong. Maybe they don't have something creative for her at the moment, which is a shame. But there's some work that needs to be done with Bayley. I think there's an argument. Like, I like Bayley as a baby face, but I really think she should go back to what really made her great in the early days as her baby face, and like the huggy happy go lucky gimmick. I think she could put a fun spin on that again, where it's still her, but it's a newer version, right? June 1st. Are you, Adam? Are you referring to Mariah May maybe showing up? You thinking June 1st? That's like, oh man, wait, June 1st. That's Sunday. So yeah, I don't know. Give me some clarity on that, there, Adam. What you mean? That's interesting, Days. What do you think about Mariah May's evolution, new face of NXT? I mean, that kind of is that going to line up? I mean, June 12th seems like it's July 12th, isn't it? For Evolution. So maybe there's a possibility she should show up there. I mean, if she's available at that time, I would put her in there, right? Like, you want to talk about like Evolution? You get a new star like Mariah May. She's evolving into WWE. Whoa, how about that? Oh, I see what you mean. Her contract might expire June 1st. Interesting. Well, if that's the case, yeah, maybe I would hold off till Evolution. I think that would be a cool way to introduce her to a new crowd, a new audience. But man, what a loss for AEW. And gives you pause to think that they're losing another talent here. So I don't know. I just thought it was a good opportunity. It's raining like crazy here in Pittsburgh, and I was like, hey, you know what? I got to do a hotline. Why not go live right now? So I do want to close out though, because you guys can tune right into the Mind of the Meaty here at 7:00. So I am going to exit out, but I thank everybody for giving some feedback in here, chiming in. Triple E, real quick, I will answer this question. Thoughts on possibility spoiling the match between El Patron and Vikingo tomorrow night, and with how they announced the title match at World Class without him winning it yet? I think WWE is kind of not. I think they're, if I had to make a guess, I think they're maybe kind of, wanting to kind of separate themselves maybe from this Alberto Del Rio situation in certain ways, getting ahead of it and indicating like, okay, yeah, he might not be in our long-term plans, but who knows? I could be completely wrong on this, and they could be doing something else. So yeah, we'll see what happens with all that. But yeah, thank you everybody tuning in for this live version of the hotline, my first ever live version of the hotline. I'll try to do some more of these here, maybe from time to time. Maybe I'll try to make it a once a week thing, going live here. But yes, be sure to like, subscribe, share Brass Ring Media on YouTube. If you haven't yet, check out my LJ Cleary interview just posted today. We had a great conversation, 32 minutes. We talked about CM Punk, training with CM Punk. We talk about his early days training since he was 13 years old, him meeting Lyra Valkyria, what he can see more of her in WWE, what he thinks the fans haven't seen of her yet. Really interesting topic on there. He talks about Backlash and leaning in and enjoying almost the aspect of the viral situation he found himself in on social media at WWE Backlash, and the criticism he got and the fun he's having with it. So I named it Clark Kent to Superman, and that's a good way to call it. So check that out. And yes, time to check out Mind of Meanie. Thank you all for tuning in today. I'll see you next time here on the Daily Pro Wrestling Hotline. Call 1-900-909-9900.